And it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we would take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other. And we will rise, we'll rise. We'll rise.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, the Honorable Samantha Power.
Good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be back in New York City and to be here on behalf of such an incredibly important cause. Before I introduce our honored award recipient tonight, Hamdi, I would like to take just a moment to say a word about the McCains. The last time I spoke with Senator John McCain, I was U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, and he was yelling at me. I had telephoned him to urge him to support a colleague of mine for Senate confirmation. By the end of our call, which became only about Syria, Senator McCain was telling me not only that he would not support my friend, but that I myself should resign. What struck me so profoundly that day, which I remember unsurprisingly like it was yesterday, as he rattled off the names of vulnerable towns that he had visited in Syria. What struck me was that there was no staff on the call to impress with his convictions, no public gallery. There was just a man, an American senator, an American patriot who cared so much that he was not going to miss an opportunity to make the case for US leadership as he saw it. He was an American original, one we will not see again. Now tonight we could be honoring Cindy McCain in her own right for her work on protecting runaway and homeless youth, or her tireless efforts to combat the scourge of human trafficking. But during a year that must have been brutal for Cindy, she has used her own pitch-perfect voice to amplify Senator McCain's ideals: honor and integrity, a commitment to democratic values, partnership across the aisle and around the world. These have been dark days, and our democracy has lost a giant. But it is a great comfort to know that Cindy will bring her formidable gifts to the McCain Institute and to the ongoing fight for human dignity here and around the world. Thank you for all that you do, Cindy, and all that you will do. Now, to Hamdi Ulukaya, recipient of the Global Citizen Award. Many of you may know Hamdi from Chobani yogurt, a yogurt that, the first time we taste it, makes us feel transported to some Aegean island, which is an especially welcome destination during UN General Assembly High-Level Week here in New York City. But the most important thing to know about Hamdi is not that he makes special yogurt. It is that he is an extremely special person who has never assumed that big challenges are someone else's problem. As he puts it very simply, quote, "A company should behave in a way that solves some of the problems that society is dealing with," end quote. If it were so simple. The world is experiencing the worst refugee crisis since World War II, we know. 68.5 million people displaced, 25 million of them refugees who have crossed borders, including 13 million children. In the past year, only about 100,000 refugees have been resettled worldwide. The rest live in limbo. That's 25 million refugees, among whom 13 million are children, 100,000 resettled. Now, even if governments were stepping up to do the right thing, which many, including the US government, are not, the crisis is too big for governments. Even if we could leave our tribal, polarized corners to remember where we and our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents came from, even if our politicians remembered the golden rule, the same golden rule we teach our kids, what governments can do would still not be enough. After a childhood raising goats and sheep in the mountains of Turkey, Hamdi was studying political science in Ankara and advocating for Kurdish rights when the Turkish government called him in for questioning. Concerned, understandably, that he was at risk, Hamdi bought a plane ticket to New York City in 1994 at the age of 22. Speaking hardly any English, he took classes, moved upstate, and started a small cheese business. Then, in 2007, he started Chobani, and in 5 years, he grew his company from 5 people to more than 2,000 employees, making a company that no one had ever heard of into the top-selling yogurt brand in America with more than $1 billion in sales. From early on, yeah, that's kind of cool. But that wasn't all he did. From early on, he began inquiring with local community groups as to whether he could hire refugees in his plants. When he was warned that this would present many language and cultural barriers, Hamdi was not deterred. Again, he said simply, quote, "Well, these are easy to fix. We can provide transportation. We can bring translators. And Chobani is a place where everyone is welcome. Look at me. I'm from a different part of the world. It's going to be okay," end quote. He hired hundreds upon hundreds of newcomers, paying them fair living wages and celebrating Chobani's diversity not as some humanitarian act, but as a core source of its success. Drop by one of Chobani's plants today and you will hear dozens of languages spoken on the factory floor. Refugees now serve at all levels of the business. For people trying to survive and adapt in a new country with limited job opportunities, steep language barriers, and a pile of bills to pay, these are more than jobs, they are lifelines. As one Burmese refugee, a case packer at the plant in New York, said recently, quote, "We're living the American dream. It's surreal," end quote. A refugee who escaped horrific violence in the Middle East and who now manages production at Chobani's Idaho plant had this to say, "Everyday life comes more easy and becomes more beautiful. Today we are smiling and it's all because of Chobani." Every CEO, here and beyond here, who talks about social impact, every business that depends on stability in the interconnected global economy, every one of us, whether we're in business or not, who are blessed by opportunity and who believes in giving back, can find a way to chip in. That's what Hamdi has taught us all. He is trying to make that easier. He is now enlisting other companies. He is standing strong against a xenophobic backlash, refusing to be cowed by smear tactics and falsehoods. In doing so, he is showing that pluralism is a strength, that giving opportunity to hardworking people, the kinds of people who are so determined that they have gone through hell to get here, that is never charity. One company employing refugees is, of course, not a panacea for the global refugee crisis. But Hamdi has shown that just because we can't solve the world's problems, or the whole problems, doesn't mean we can't do something to help. I'd like to close with two short quotes. The first I heard from Hamdi. The poet Rumi, who lived in Turkey, once said, quote, "When you start walking the way appears," end quote. Hamdi, you are walking the way, and you are bringing so many others along with you on that path. The second is a quote not from a poet, but from a middle-aged man who I saw hoisting a sign at one of the women's marches not that long ago, about a year ago. The sign read simply, "Not usually a sign guy, but geesh." Not usually a sign guy, but geez. So, influenced by Hamdi and my sign guy, it seems the right time to ask, what are each of us normally not, that this refugee crisis and the surge in hostility toward immigrants and refugees requires us to be? It is my pleasure to invite Hamdi Ulukaya to the stage to receive his so richly deserved 2018 Global Citizens Award.
Well, Madam Secretary, thank you so much. I'm very honored with your kind words, and I'm also very honored to receive this award on behalf of every man and woman at Chobani and at Tent, because nothing is done alone. We all know that. So I owe this to all my brothers and sisters that I work with every single day. I got to know Secretary Powell a few years ago when I had this idea of bringing business community into this most urgent human crisis that we are facing today, the refugee crisis. And Samantha Power and President Obama had started this business partnership, and she took knowledge that we are also started something like this, and she liked what we've been doing, and they turned over their program into us, and they said, I guess you guys could do a better job than we do, so here you go. And that was the thing that it was real at the time. It doesn't matter who does it, who gets the credit, as long as job is done. Few years later, a few months later, I was interviewing for a 10th president, and I guess I interviewed her deputy secretary, and during that time I was just talking to a few others, and she called me, and she said, she's very direct, and she said, if you don't hire Gideon Maltz, you're an idiot, who's my deputy secretary. So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, my president at the tent is Gideon Maltz right now, and he's doing an amazing job. I was just coming from the event. Not only her influence on me and what we do and what we learn from you, Madam Secretary, but we're lucky to know you, we're lucky that you're here. We are lucky that you are here at this time when we are going through the most critical human rights abuses and refugee crisis, but you are most passionate and you taught us all about it. And we hope to see you in any level, and your passion, your leadership still comes through, because I personally learned a lot from you, and your friendship meant a lot to me, and thank you for that. I'll be very quick. Atlantic Council, you honored me. Thank you so much. Being in this amazing place with most beautiful people You know, you sometimes forget that you're a yogurt maker, you know. But there's a special honor for me to see my name next to John McCain. It really is. One of my friends here knew him, and I did tell her that if you could just give me 5 minutes with him, because I just wanted to shake his hand. And this is a true story, about a year ago. Not because of what his political view was, just being that real American. That human spirit just cuts through everything, that you're miles and miles away from a TV news or anywhere that you see him, that his humanity, this real American personality comes out and struck me so much that I always wanted to meet him. But seeing my name next to his is a great honor. And of course, along with President of Argentina and Norway. But McCain would say that we have a long way to go. There's nothing to celebrate here. Not when 20 million people are displaced and from their home and went to some other places. Not 60 million people are displaced within their own country. Not when the kids are dying on the way, on the water, on the land. When millions of people are stuck and they pushed away, labeled in such an unfair way. There's nothing to celebrate. I've been into so many places, but one particular place I've been to, I'm just going to give you one picture, what I saw there, one simple human picture. I was in Greece when people were crossing through the Aegean Sea to this island, and it was an evening time. It was almost sunset. And we went to places where there's a tent, temporary tents. When these families, when they arrive, they can have a cup of soup and a tent and where they can sleep. It's pretty horrible, the picture, of course. But when I get there, we went to one particular tent, and the father greeted us, and I asked him what was his name. He said his name was Father of Velat. He said it in Kurdish. I could understand Kurdish. And I said, wow, that's an interesting name. He said, yes, Velat was my son. He was 10 years old, and we lost him along the way. So going forward, everyone is going to call me Father of Velat. I will not be called anything else for his memory. And as I walk into the tent, there's just cardboard in the floor. And as they are generous, they don't have much. One of his daughter, 10 or 11, maybe 13 years old, blonde hair, faces, you can tell, is exposed to sun and a lot of troubles. With this most beautiful smile, she gave me a cup of tea. And it was the most sweetest tea I've ever had in my life. Of course, I look at her eyes, and she's telling me something. But what is it that she's telling me? Dark, flat in cardboard. She's telling me, tell me I'm going to be okay. I do not know what's going to happen from this moment on. I just arrived here from that sea where the sun is setting right now. Lost a brother. I know my father is going through right now. He's probably blaming himself. And we don't know, we just got here, we don't know where we're going to go from here. Tell me I'm going to be okay. I could not tell her that she was going to be okay. What I could come up with is I had some cash in my pocket. So I said maybe I could give her some cash for the pocket for a few things, which it's in our culture. She refused to take it. I begged, she didn't take it. I asked, she couldn't take it. This is a girl, has nothing. And that $500 could change her life for maybe a few days, a few weeks. Maybe the family needs it. But I'm struck by this dignity and honor that I'm not a beggar. I am not looking at you so you can give me $300 or $500. Tell me I'm going to be okay. That's one picture that I left that I will never ever forget. That I will get my inspiration not only from her, but the resilience of millions of the people that on the road, on the way, or stuck in the refugee camps, or in the cities, going through all these places. And when I look at the resources that we have, power that we have, knowledge that we have, intelligence that we have, I'm looking at all of this, and I'm trying to make a connection between this and that. It's difficult. So I said, maybe on the refugee side, businesses can do something. Maybe the voice is not translating through the politicians or the policymakers or UN. Maybe it's not working. Maybe people like us can do something. And I'm honored to say we have about 110 large companies publicly announced, and we just came from one today. 20 of them publicly announced what they're going to do for the population of refugees. And it started in 2016 in Davos with 6 companies. Today we have 110. It's good. It's not enough. I'm telling you, it's not enough. It's so urgent. It's so big. And if we don't start doing something about it, this is going to come and hunt us. Not only us, it's going to hunt our children. It doesn't matter how far we are, oceans away, or the walls, or no matter. Because we're going to walk with shame, we're going to walk with guilt that we could do something about it, and we choose to avoid it. We truly could do something about it today and tomorrow, and it was yesterday too, but we choose to avoid it. And we let these people to suffer, just like we did in World War II, after World War II. And we cannot translate this to our children. So until then, I will get my inspiration from all these amazing people that are doing the work every single day in the refugee camps, when they come from the water, when they register them, when they answer their questions every single day. I will get inspiration from them. I will get inspiration from the refugees themselves. I will get my inspirations from John McCain and Samantha Power and the people that we have all over the world, that they're really, really real and passionately putting their solution into the places. But one day I'm gonna lock myself into another picture that I see the same exact girl looking at me, at this heavenly smile in his face, and says, "Thank you," with his eyes. And I say, of course, my sister, looking at her eyes. That's the picture I'm locking myself at. And until we get all these people in safety, all the children to become children and play and be silly, and all the women are safe in this big universe, big resources that we have nothing to celebrate but work for that picture. So for that, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for behalf of that little girl thinking that we will make this world better for her and all the other children. Thank you so much.